All right, folks, welcome back to the Geek Branch Podcast. We're still in the depths of disorder, and we haven't yet surfaced. I'm here with my co-host Tim and our special guest host Mary and Mike, and I am, of course, your best host Dane. And today we're gonna be staying around here and looking at Arno Stark in Iron Man 2020 issue 1, and over more greater all
This is an
talking
event
about
series.
talking about the state of comics in general and related to what's currently happening in Iron Man. So, in order to give a little bit of background going into Iron Man 2020, to be specific, we're specifically talking about actual Iron Man 2020 because there have been 3 releases of Iron Man 2020 in the history of Iron Man comics. I am a huge Iron Man fan, so I'm just going to quickly separate these out for you. There's one in 1993, which is just a future series. Then there's one in 2013, which also deals with Arno Stark, but Arno Stark from this iteration is Tony Stark's descendant.
Oh, okay.
And then now we have Iron Man 2020 in the year 2020, where we're dealing with Arno Stark in its latest iteration, Tony Stark's actual brother, but they're not biological brothers. I'm going to explain that in just a moment. So in order to run you through the latest history in Iron Man comics from 2018 to 2020, we're going to quickly wrap you up on this. The major things that have happened to Iron Man are this. Iron Man has come back into the scene, and he has restarted Stark Industries as Stark Resilient. And he has rejoined the Avengers, taking up all these interesting and cool roles, and he eventually gets caught up in something that is known as Civil War II, which is a lot to explain. But the most important thing to explain from Civil War II is that he gets into a fight with Captain Marvel and loses.
Yep.
Oh.
And the damage from that fight renders him comatose. And he is comatose for a long period of time from that series to going to actual Iron Man. When Iron Man is running during this time in which Tony is in a coma, a bunch of other things occurred right before this, by the way, like the death of War Machine. Thanos, War Machine goes on a mission with Captain Marvel, where they are trying to preemptively stop Thanos because of an Inhuman in a Minority Report story, where this Inhuman can see the future and they're trying to stop crimes before they occur.
No,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah,
This is how it gets all started with the
Right. How
the
Civil War 2
2.
pops off. It's Minority Report. Literally, that's the best way of describing it. If you don't know what Minority Report is, do a quick Google. It's a really good game as well as a movie. But so
And they had a TV show too.
yeah, and so War Machine dies because Thanos just literally punches through the armor and kills him. By the way, War Machine at the time was dating Carol Danvers, Captain Marvel.
Oh.
Yeah, so that
Yeah, because in the comics, almost everybody dates each other at least twice.
right. So that goes horrifically wrong, and it culminates in the big fight in Civil War II. So Iron Man is in this coma for a strong period of time. During this time, Tony Stark's biological mother comes into the actual character. Comes to be an actual character. It turns out that Tony Stark is not the son of Howard and I want to say Maria. I might be wrong, but Maria Stark.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not their biological child. He's actually the
Adopted.
He's actually adopted. His mother was a basically a punk rocker who was in a relationship with a SHIELD agent. But that's like nothing of any relevance at all. The point being is that Tony Stark is just adopted. He's not actually the biological child of the Starks. The actual biological child of the Starks is his brother, Arno Stark,
That no one knows.
who's been hidden away by the Starks using Tony as a type of cover for their actual son, who is fully paralyzed. He is bedridden and is basically living in like the equivalent of a deluxe iron lung.
Oh, Jesus.
But he's literally like way more intelligent than Iron Man. And Iron Man has never actually been very intelligent. The beauty of Iron Man is that his genius comes in problem solving. So while
You
he
can
doesn't
get some angry folks with that comment.
No. I'm serious. Like when you talk about like IQ, he's not like Reed Richards or T'Challa. He's not the smartest character in
Or
Marvel.
Reed Richards' son.
Yeah, yeah. He's not the smartest character in Marvel. That's fine. What Tony Stark does better than any of them, though, is that there is a problem. Tony Stark is the person that can find a solution to it. He's like Batman. Batman is not the most intelligent character in DC, but he's the world's greatest detective.
Right.
He's really good at what he does, and Tony invents solutions.
He's the master engineer.
And and it brings it up later. There's a comic I can refer you to where he plays Reed Richards in chess, and they're playing on 24 boards at the same time.
Jesus.
Yeah. So it's like super chess between these two
Yeah.
intellectual geniuses, and he wins 23 out of 24 games during that round. Why? Because he's better at solving problems than Reed Richards is. So Reed Richards is definitely smarter than Tony.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
But Arnold Stark, though, has the best of both worlds. Arnold Stark is an intellectual powerhouse designed by basically a celestial for the sole purpose of defending Earth. Arnold Stark is like literally Superman with just crippled. There's no other way of describing it.
He's crippled.
Yeah, but he gets introduced as a character during this time phase, along with Tony Stark's mother. So these two characters run out their story course, and eventually, after enough time, Tony Stark comes back because he has created a system to reboot himself if he ever takes fatal damage.
Ah.
And it turns out that Captain Marvel didn't put him into a coma. Captain Marvel killed him.
Oh, snap.
Like outright murdered him. But he comes back, right? So everybody's like, it's okay. He didn't actually die. He's fine. And we go and we start the whole run with Stark Resilient, where Tony Stark has come out of this coma and is rebuilding the company. And that's Dan Slott's run on Tony Stark. No one really likes Dan Slott. He was the previous Spider-Man writer.
Right.
Yeah, Spider-Man's my favorite superhero, and he was running Spider-Man to the ground for like 10 years.
But he's
so
taken over.
He's gone.
Yeah. He's taken over Iron Man now.
Yeah, so now you got 10 years with him.
Okay, so and then as we're running across Iron Man, what happens with Iron Man's story now that he's come back as well? He's brought himself back from the dead. So you know what he really wants to do? Bring his best friend Rhodey back from the dead.
Oh, God.
So which is what he does. He does go and just literally hard revive Rhodey.
Doesn't he like 3D print him essentially?
Functionally, it's like there's really no explanation for what the technology basically is, but it does create them a new body because they come out completely bald, which is funny.
As Rick would say, Operation Phoenix.
Yeah, basically. So they basically pop out like that, and Rhodey unfortunately is still traumatized by the events that have occurred.
Oh yeah,
to
so
him.
he's freaking out as soon as he comes back.
Right. Not only that, but he's now terrified of being in the War Machine armor. He can't actually get back in the armor.
Oh, wow.
He's completely retired. He has PTSD. And the only way that he can help Tony now is through a robotic tank that they call the Manticore that Tony builds for him as a form of protection that allows Rhodey to fight alongside him. But Rhodey himself cannot wear Iron Man armor anymore. During this time frame, by the way, something that occurs that's really fun, I just want to mention it. Punisher runs off with the War Machine armor.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
perfect person to have that.
So
Yep,
Frank
there's no
Castle-
problems with that at all.
So
No.
Nick Fury recruits Frank Castle to do a special mission for S.H.I.E.L.D., gives him the War Machine armor for the mission. Frank completes the mission and then doesn't return the War Machine armor.
I mean, do you blame him?
It's like giving him a really shiny gun and going, all right, you got to deal with this. And he's like, good, I'm keeping the gun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so he keeps the War Machine armor, and then he just goes on a rampage, killing everybody in the War Machine armor
Oh,
because
yeah.
it's Frank Castle. He can do his job infinitely better now that he's a superhero rather than just a really cool guy with a gun.
Right.
And the way that they get Frank, like literally,
Oh, dude, did they like redo the paint job and stuff?
yeah,
for it?
he skulls the front of the War
Oh,
Machine
yes.
armor. It's one of the
Yeah.
coolest things. We're all calling him Iron Punisher, but anyway,
Oh, nice. Yeah. Why would you not?
yeah, right. So he's going around just murdering people as Frank Castle does. And one of the cool things that occurs is they call in the entire Avengers to take down Frank
Oh,
Castle
gosh.
because they're like he has Iron Man armor. He's really good at what he does. We have to stop him, right? And the way that they finally do get him, because he's about to literally go 1v like 13 against the Avengers by himself. But the way they get him to stop is that they actually get Rhodey to come and speak to him soldier to soldier. And he tells him that, while I can never agree with what you do, I respect what you've done, which is served your country. And you need to also respect me because what you're using is my weapon to do these things. And, Punisher man to man is like, I didn't think of it that way, that I've stolen your gun and I'm committing these acts with your weapon. And so he literally just walks out of the armor and returns it to Rhodey. Rhodey still can't wear it, but it's one of the coolest little things that happened during this arc.
And the Avengers do nothing to him.
Well, yeah, because, I mean, dude, he was going to cause major damage.
Yeah.
Like, he has Iron Man armor.
I mean, if I have anything to say about the other comics that I've seen him do stuff to, like, Deadpool, no, not Deadpool,
Daredevil.
Daredevil and, was it Wolverine?
Mm-hmm.
He's like, well, I know you can't die,
so
and, you know,
he goes
I'm
full
just gonna,
tilt.
I'm just gonna mess you up.
Remember he runs over Wolverine with a steamroller?
Oh yeah, like melts him down to his adamantium. And
Yeah.
Punisher knows how to take out an enemy.
And like he tells Spider-Man that everything's like mined all around him, and that he can't leave the room, and then turns out later nothing was mined at all.
Yeah, but it was overriding his spider sense, so he couldn't do anything. He was literally paralyzed.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, Punisher's on point. But regardless,
He loves his Punisher.
He's also one of my favorites.
Oh yeah, I agree.
But we proceed on. This is one of the few times that Iron Man and Punisher get to interact, by the way, which is so cool. But so Tony's come back and he's reliving his life, and he is starting up Stark Brazilian again. He's going back and finding some of his old competitors that he used to have put out of business back when he was the brutal capitalist, and he's rehiring them from wherever they might be to add their talent to Stark Brazilian. So he picks up a few characters there, and he also picks up Jocasta, which, if you remember, is Ultron's wife. And Jocasta's working for Tony now in this building. And so starting this new series, I'm like, there's a lot of potential here. This could become really interesting. And
Runs downhill real fast.
Yeah, okay. So Dan Slott decides to play with something that's really heavy and really high concept, and he does not treat it properly. So once again, we brought up
sounds
earlier.
like Dan Slott to me.
Yeah. So we talked earlier episode of this podcast about the trial of Data, which is whether or not an AI is a conscious entity and has human rights. Well, that is what Tony Stark's issue is running up with. There's been a new spring because of the continuous technological evolution in the Marvel Universe of AI that have been kind of coming to the forefront and have been existing, robots and other things that have kind of made their own communities, right? And so a lot of them have a kind of love-hate relationship with Tony. A lot of them think that he's a guy cosplaying as a robot because he's a guy in a suit of armor.
Yeah.
And other people think that he's the human that understands robots the most because he's the man who's created a lot of the technology that allows them to exist. They have a very good relationship with them. Well, one of the characters that has been brought up during this arc is Machine Man. I don't know if anyone remembers him.
No idea.
Right. He's not very relevant. But regardless, Machine Man has come up and he's dating Jocasta, which is just, by the way, this becomes slice of life real quick, so it's going to get boring. I'm going to run through it as quickly as I can.
Dane thinks slice of life is boring.
I mean, it really is to me. But Machine Man is currently dating Jocasta. And Jocasta has been working with humans and likes working with humans. She likes Janet Van Dyne, who she's based off of. She likes working with Tony, even though she basically just bullies Tony. Because there's a whole lot.
Fun.
Yeah, there's a whole lot there. But she enjoys being with human beings. Metal Man, Machine Man, doesn't actually like dealing
You
with...
mixing up DC with Marvel.
I know, right? Doesn't actually like dealing with humans. He's actually really bigoted, and it's functionally just racist against human beings. There's no other way of describing it. And he wants Jocasta to quit her job, start working for the meat bags, which is what he calls them, and come be with her people.
It's HK-47.
Right.
Yep.
And so we get to this whole big thing where because of this technology that's running around that allows bodies to be rebuilt, well, Arno gets access to it. So Arno finally gets a functioning body.
Oh, no.
And so Arno is an actual character now. And the problem with Arno is that he's been stuck in this bed for decades.
And his brothers probably ignored him.
Well, his brother didn't know he existed.
Oh, okay.
But Arno's been having access to all this technology, all this intake. Imagine like he's basically like Stephen Hawking's. You know what I'm saying? The capacity that he lost physically, he made up for mentally. And so now he gets to go out and do what he was literally designed to do, which is help the Earth. Right? But the problem is that he has had no human contact in like 3 decades. So he has no regard for human beings. Like, it's really strange. He's designed to protect them, right? To protect the Earth, to defend this planet. He is a superhero, but he has no ethical qualms at all and no consideration for humanity. So he won't kill anybody.
So he's like someone we just talked about.
Yeah,
the
right.
previous topic.
Right.
The doctor.
He won't kill anybody, but he also just doesn't think about them at all. So when we first get introduced to him, he is now basically accommodated himself with some Iron Man armor or Iron Man tech and is flying around doing things that he wants to do. So he plants an entire 100 hectares of wheat in the Sahara Desert to solve world hunger. He literally terraforms the Sahara Desert. Right?
Yeah, that's not going to have any negative repercussions at all.
At all.
But no, you're going to keep doing this because he starts making new technologies that are meant to benefit and help humanity and just gives them out without knowing who's going to use them or what's. You see what I'm saying? He's just doing everything he can to fix these issues as he sees them, but he leaves all these projects either half done. Like he starts the project, he's really smart, really intelligent, sees something more important, and then goes and fixes that and leaves that project half done. He's just causing these problems that eventually will build up into bigger issues.
Ooh, piece of candy.
Right. Because once again, this is his first time out in the world.
Right,
You know what I'm saying? So I don't blame the character for this, but he takes it to a really, really big extreme. So
he's just super excited to get out and do stuff, and now, this I gotta do this now.
Right.
You know, I can actually do these things.
right, I have hands, I can
Right.
touch, I can move, I can run. He's very happy to be living his life, and I don't blame him for that. But we're going to continue on. So this is what he's doing while Tony Stark is dealing with Stark Resilient. So when Tony Stark is building up his company, he comes up with something called the Escape, which is Ready Player One. It's literally the Oasis. It's because Dan Slott can't be creative. He literally just takes the idea.
He always copies off people.
Right. So the Escape goes off, and it is a big hit at the very beginning. There's a problem though. Someone is hacking into the Escape,
Of course.
and obviously it's becoming like .hack, where there are real consequences for things going on in the cyber universe.
People are dying.
Right, amongst other things. And so they have to figure out what's going on. And it turns out that AIs, these sentient robots, are interfacing into the Escape, and they're pretending to be human. So there's literally humans in the Escape pretending to be anything that they want, and then there are AIs in the Escape pretending to be human. And all of this stuff is going on because Tony has made this giant AI, like literally a massive, the most complex AI on Earth, to run the Escape because it has that requirement for it.
You think he would learn?
Well, no, it's actually not. There's nothing actually wrong with the AI. It's actually it doesn't
No-
how it
no
doesn't how
Ultron.
you. Yeah, right.
Okay.
Because Tony's not Hank Pym. He actually does it correctly. it
that's
doesn't.
good.
But the people that are getting into it are causing all these problems, and it can't fix them. Right? It's not capable yet. It's learning because it's just been booted up. So it's causing the Escape to basically fail, and it's hurting Tony's business. And so it turns out that
These people are. Was it they were able to do all this because of his brother?
well, yes and no. We're gonna get there. So they're basically hackers, but the thing that's allowing them to really get into the system and do all of this is a villain called the Controller, which I don't know if anyone remembers him either.
He's small. He was a small name. villain
Yeah,
back
but he's
in the
also
day.
a really big guy who
Yeah.
his ability is, of course, to interface with technology, but he also can collect people, and the more people he collects, the more powerful he gets. So he's basically been siphoning off all of this collective power from the people he's kidnapped and that are currently in the Escape and gaining more power because of it.
Oh wow.
And so what he's done is there's a company called Bain Industries, which is run by Sunset Bain, who is once again a Hammer Industries. She's an antagonist to Tony in the business world. Well, she's come up with a 3D printing technology, right? Well, the Controller has hijacked her 3D printing technology and is printing live Stark Tech weapons
Oh no.
and giving them to the players who are stuck in the Escape. So what's happening is that you're in a virtual reality world where you can run around and cause all this chaos because you're a hacker. You're literally there to grief people.
Yeah.
Right? And then all of a sudden, while you're playing it, you get equipped with real-life weapons. And what you're doing in the Escape is what you're doing in real life.
Oh, that's great.
So it's utter chaos, which gets resolved by, of course, Tony eventually beating the Controller, fixing the things with the Escape. The Escape gets shut off, but he gets trapped in there when it gets turned off. We're gonna get to that in just a moment. Because Bain Industries is also partially responsible for this because their 3D printing technology gets hijacked. Arnold Stark gets introduced to Sunset Bane, and the two of them become partners. And Bane is directly antagonistic to his brother, but Arnold doesn't care about Tony. He doesn't care about anybody, really. He just is trying to move forward with his goals, right? And so he's using Sunset Bane's 3D printing technology to create something. We don't know what that is. We go over to Tony. Tony gets locked in the AI world, and he's there with Motherboard, his AI. And she takes the form of his mother.
Oh, great.
And I mean, like, not his biological mother, Miss Stark.
Yeah.
Right? And they have this big conversation where she's trying to give Tony peace. She's doing whatever, that's what it's built to do. It's meant to take care of him in this situation. So she's doing everything that she can to do whatever she thinks would make Tony happy. So Tony gets inundated with virtual reality. He gets his parents back because of virtual reality. He gets to go on dates, live a lavish and past life as a hair rather than being a business runner himself.
Right.
And he also gets, the AI incentivizes him to drink again. So in virtual reality, he breaks
an alcoholic again.
Yeah, he breaks his sobriety. And all of this culminates in him realizing that he can't be sure if he's Tony Stark or if he's a program designed by Tony Stark.
That's like Spider-Man Clone Saga.
Right, that's the point, that he can't be sure if he's the actual Tony Stark or not. So we go forward in this series, because some things occur here in the background, which is Arno uses the technology from Iron Man that allowed him to make hard copies of body, the AI backup of their parents that was stored in Motherboard, and Sunset Bane's 3D printing technology, and revives Howard and Maria Stark.
Oh, snap.
The Starks are back from the dead.
Yep.
Right. Now, he leaves everything to Tony because he doesn't want to interfere with his brother. He has that much regard for Tony. But he is now living with his parents. He's gotten his life back. He's doing things that he wasn't able to do because, his parents died.
Right.
And he was stuck in bed and unable to do anything about it. So he's literally brought them back. He's living with them currently. And on Tony's side, after dealing with all this stuff with Escape, he also gets into the War of the Realms, which is a big crossover for that year. And then after resolving the War of the Realms, he gets down into this last little arc where Ultron comes back.
Yep.
So something that's happened to Ultron in the interim here that needs to be explained right quick is that Ultron is fused with Hank Pym.
Oh.
So
because in the comics, for the viewers, Hank Pym is the creator of Ultron, not Tony Stark.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's a big difference. And he's also a really bad father because Ultron views him as his creator and treats him as a fatherly figure.
Yeah.
Hank Pym
hates Hank Pym.
Yeah. Hank Pym disregards him as an entity, and they eventually solve their issues and resolve this conflict between them, father and son, by getting fused together. And so, literally, you have like Ultron's body and like half of Hank Pym's head on the left side of Ultron's body, and that is literally Pym Ultron. It's really bizarre.
He's the Pym Ultimate. Ultron.
So yeah, he's running around. But his point is that he has embraced his new life, and he really, really likes it because he has all of the arrogance of Hank Pym and all of the arrogance of Ultron.
And all the power of Ultron.
Right.
Oh,
and all
Yeah.
the genius of Hank Pym. So he's running around as a pure, perfect amalgamation. And he's like, you know what would be really nice? And what I always really regretted, I hated that I slapped my wife and we broke up, Janet Van Dyne.
So they actually did
Well,
mention that?
Well, yes. I mean, it never gets erased from his history. No one will
Okay.
ever let that live down. That dude,
Okay.
he messed up big.
Yeah, that was his biggest thing.
And then Ultron's like, I created the perfect bride. I wish I could have her back. And remember that this is what's going on in the background. I forgot to mention this too because this is in the slice of life section, which I don't care about.
Right.
Tony is currently dating Janet.
Right.
And DaCosta is currently working for Tony.
So
Hank Pym Pym Ultron comes to Stark Industries, and his goal is to kidnap Janet and kidnap Jocasta
make them
and
one.
fuse them together just like he fused. So he'd have his perfect wife.
Yeah,
It's
this really messed up situation.
I mean, I guess it makes sense in their head.
Right,
Yeah.
because they're lunatics.
Yeah.
But one of the things that goes on during this time period that really makes me very, very sad is that he's been doing this to other people. He's been literally taking the robots that have been appearing in the series, right? Yeah. Taking those robots and then taking people off the street and fusing them together.
Why?
Because he can. He's perfecting the technology, basically.
Oh, okay. It's before he gets them two together.
Yeah, before he tries to put them together.
Right, because they love them.
Well,
their version of love.
Yeah, right.
Right.
The insanity that's related to that. So he's been doing this. He's been doing a lot of it. So there's like, they go to raid where he is, and Tony has to deal with Ultron himself, which is a hard fight to begin with because it's just Iron Man versus Ultron. And Rhodey is going to go and try to rescue these people that have been taken by him. Well, Rhodey goes into the building, and he gets swarmed by basically like 1,000 undead zombie cyborg hybrids. And Rhodey has PTSD that he's been covering up, but we, the reader, know about it.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So he gets into this situation where they're climbing over his mech, and they're ripping the mech apart, and he's seeing these hybrid machine monster abominations, and he freaks.
He snaps
and kills them all. He
and
was
they're
there
all technically
he
alive.
was there to rescue them.
Yeah.
He literally guns them all down.
Wow.
Yeah, it's horrible, right? So that's something that happens to Rhodey.
That's out of Rhodey's character.
And well, yeah, amongst many other things. And they retcon it like a few issues later because of Backlash, in that those cyborg people were undead.
Oh, did
they're
they say they were undead?
Zombies. Yeah, they're basically zombies.
Okay.
But
because people were mad.
But you're gonna get to the reason why this is an issue in just a second. So Tony is fighting with Ultron, and he can't beat Ultron, and the Avengers can't help him out because they're still dealing with the aftermath of other things going on in the universe. So it's him versus Ultron, and he's not winning that fight. So Ultron's plan moves into fruition. He kidnaps Janet. He kidnaps Jocasta, puts them in the device that he's made, and is about to fuse them. Tony arrives for a second fight and breaks the machine, freeing them. But Tony gets fused with the Iron Man armor.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
And he becomes this unstable monstrosity that is like dying. Because the Iron Man armor in him, it's not a full-fledged robot. It's just a suit.
It's not its own AI and stuff. Yeah.
Right. So the fusion doesn't work right, along with the fact that the machine got blown up when he took them out of it.
Yeah.
So he's like this grueling monstrosity. He's like 9 foot tall, looks like he's wearing the Hulkbuster, but has skin on top of it. It's like a Cronenberg horror, right? And he's still fighting Ultron like this.
Oh, jeez, Rick.
Yeah. So regardless, while this is happening, he has to pilot a miniature version of an Iron Man suit into his own body to fix himself from the inside while they work on the technology to unfuse people. Which, remember, they're working on a technology to unfuse people. So what Rhodey just did is murder.
Oh, yeah.
You see, the moment they do that, and then no matter what they say afterwards, when the retcon comes up, he actually killed those people. And I hate that for him. Because Rhodey's a really good man.
Because it still doesn't, the retcon still doesn't make sense. Because if that's
what happens is,
because then Tony would have been a zombie too.
Right. Because what happens is that while he's inside of himself working to fix himself, because there's a miniature Ultron also going there fighting. Yeah. The point is, Ultron's just
going on.
Yeah, Ultron's just trying to kill Tony. So he goes and he fights the miniature Ultron, beats the miniature Ultron inside of himself. They work on the technology to fix himself, which will eventually happen. But while he's in there, he finds they're fighting by one of his blood cells, and there's a barcode on the back of his blood cell, a Stark Industries scan code.
Oh, right.
So, because he doesn't have a complete memory of his own technology that allowed him to basically reboot, he wasn't aware of this. But what that technology did was create an entirely new synthetic body for him. He is a backup of Tony Stark's mind in a synthetic body. Carol, Captain Marvel, killed Tony Stark. And what's running around now isn't Tony at all.
Right.
It's just like Rhodey is also not Rhodey.
Right, Rhodey, yeah.
Yeah, it's a 3D printed version of what is like a replacement of him.
Yeah, so it just, you can see where all my problems are coming in here, right? So you have to deal with the horror of that. Tony Stark has to accept that. And that actually ends basically the Tony Stark run for that point. And we go into next year, and it's Iron Man 2020. And I'm like, okay, So we're gonna get back to Iron Man, and it is a continuation of the events that have been occurring in the last Iron Man comic. It's a direct continuation, just a new issue #1. And so we get there, and it's from Arno's perspective.
Yeah, it's all about Arno now.
Huh.
Right. And so we get from Arno's perspective, and Arno is dealing with basically a robot rebellion. Because we have like Nicholas Fury, like, you know, white Fury.
Right.
We have his life model decoys.
Wait,
Construction.
so they have both Nick Furies in this world?
Yeah.
That's confusing.
Well, remember that Black Nick Fury is just white Nick Fury's kid.
that's right. Yeah, I
In
forgot
this
that
universe,
in
yeah.
this universe, I forgot that they made it that was they were the same.
Yeah, he's Junior. He's Nick
yeah,
Fury Jr.
I forgot that they made him Junior.
And we just call old Nick Fury Nicholas Fury.
Yeah, I just forgot that they actually made that into a
right.
canon.
So he has life model decoys. The reason why he always kept dying and then coming back because it was never actually him.
Yeah.
But they're robots. So those are rebelling, along with all these other robots and technologies, all being led by Machine Man in this robot rebellion. And it's become this giant war between Arno and Sunset Bane and the robots. We don't know what Tony's doing, but that's just something that's going on here. So what happens is that one of the one company, just a random other company.
So Arno gets his own Iron Man suit.
Yes, he creates his own Iron Man suit, by the way, because he's more than capable of it. And it looks really cool. I actually don't dislike it, but he's not Iron Man.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? He doesn't even call himself Iron Man, by the way. People call him Iron Man because they see him and they think he's Iron Man
Oh yeah.
because he's wearing Iron Man armor, but he's not. So he's just running around.
That's a common thing with superheroes. Just like Spider-Man, there's like 5 billion Spider-Men, but they ought to
call him Spider-Man. Yeah. So he's running around, and he's dealing with the robot rebellion. And so what's happening is that, you know, robots are pushing for equal rights, yada yada, all of that jazz that normally happens here in this situation, except it's all being done violently. They discover a company has automated one of their factories, and that factory's AI has become sentient. So rather than what happens is that Bain Industries buys that company, and then on national TV, Arno blows up the building, killing the AI. which triggers a response from the robot rebellion because he's trying to hunt them out and take them down. Right. So this is a 1-for-1. Once again, none of these people actually care. Arnold does not consider AI to be anything. To him, they're infinitely beneath anything he can matter. He's so intelligent, he doesn't need one in his suit like Iron Man does.
Right.
So he doesn't even interface with an AI. He completely disregards them. Right. So when Machine Man comes and retaliates, what Machine Man has decided to do is plant a giant bomb outside of a prenatal care system. It's basically a building full of babies. And he challenges Arno, and he's like, Arno, you have a decision to make. You can either take me down, or you can stop this bomb from going off and killing all these small meatbags.
He's messing with the wrong person because he doesn't care about humans.
Well, no, remember that Arnold's job is to protect humans and Earth.
So he understands he has to.
Yes, so he does take the bomb away, and Machine Man's all cocky and confident about it, and he's just like, you blinked. No, he's just being a hero. It is what he is designed to do. He decides to save the civilians. But regardless, so he runs off, and Machine Man goes back to their base, which is just hidden somewhere. It's not very important.
Sounds like one of those Arrow villains of the week type of plot lines.
It is what it is.
No offense to the Arrowverse.
Right.
They go back to the base, and then there's the thing that just kills me. There's a guy who's working on an AI forge. It's like literally a digital forge, and he's literally forging code that is like creating new and better AI. And I'm just like, it looks cool. It doesn't make any sense technologically. By the way, Dan Slott has like no technical capacity as far as the writing is concerned. So all of his terminology like belongs back in the 80s.
Well, you know, you've seen when he tried to make Spider-Man into like this huge billionaire
tech
mogul / Bond person.
Yeah, it doesn't work. So
yeah, don't read.
But
Spider-Man.
Yeah, right.
He essentially took over Iron Man's spot. Like literally, like he was.
While Iron Man was gone, he was basically a type of Iron Man.
Yeah, he was worth more than Tony.
For a time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, whatever. That's another part of bad writing, but we're gonna get on.
And that was made by Dan Slott.
So Tony, there's a man who is like wearing Iron Man armor. And he's literally forging these complicated codes and scripts in AI, and he looks like Iron Man at the forge when Iron Man was initially making the armor.
Yeah.
And so one of the new robots that was brought into the Robot Rebellion says, "Isn't that Tony Stark? Why is he here? Why is there a human in the middle of the Robot Rebellion?" And I am the reader, like, Tony, what's going on? Like, I know that you're not Tony, and that you know that you're not Tony, but you are not an AI. I just need you to.
So is this a real Tony? The real Tony this time?
No, it's not. This is another fake Tony. This Tony that's forging this machine is an AI hard copy of the original Tony that made the armor, the very first one back in Vietnam. Well, now it's Afghanistan because of the
You got it.
yeah. But it's a hard copy of that Iron Man.
He'd be pretty old.
He takes off his helmet and he has like long hair from being imprisoned, looks gaunt, and he's just like he informs them as to what he is. And Machine Man tells you that he's the one who's been building up the Robot Rebellion, has been building the code and the source and all the materials necessary to upgrade and enhance all of these robots. And he describes himself as Mark 1. Which is what Iron Man called the original armor.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he's an AI that's leading the Robot Rebellion. So the Robot Rebellion, which is being fought by Arno Stark, is led by an AI copy of Tony Stark. And that is
Wow.
issue 1 of Iron Man 2020. That has been my life as an Iron Man fan. I remember, I'm not like other people. I don't read this online.
So
or
he was
anything.
like Kane. So there was a Spider-Man clone saga, and there was like
I remember that was a long time ago.
long time
Yeah.
ago, and
Yeah.
so Kane was the one where he was like the messed up clone of Spider-Man. So that's essentially what Mach 1 is for
Yeah.
Iron Man.
So and he talks the rhetoric. They sound like, communists at their height. He's like, my AI brothers and sisters, I am building a better future. And he has like the full on like he looks like a communist. There's no way to describe it. He has the hammer, you know what I'm saying? Just working on the metal.
My brothers, I will build you AI. Come in, stay warm by fire.
There's an episode of The Office where Dwight's accepting an award, and Jim tells him about like famous like speeches and stuff like that to help him for his speech, and one of them happens to be like a famous communist like speech, and he's like, only the blood will make the wheel churn.
Yeah.
And then like all these people are like super into it, and they have no idea that's like a famous
Oh
communist
my
speech.
god, that is great.
But yeah, so that is the current state of Iron Man. Iron Man is dead. His brother's running around in his suit. An AI version of him is leading a robot rebellion.
We still have giant, grotesque Iron Man still not fixed.
He fixes himself. That technology does work, and
okay.
he does get pulled.
So after he gave himself a colonoscopy with a mini version of himself,
he gets fixed,
Okay.
and we don't know where he is.
Ah.
And
So what happened to? So that's real Tony.
well, that's real fake Tony.
Yeah, we don't know where.
Real Tony's still in the AI world, or
No, he's left that.
the virtual world.
He's still in the real world. We just don't. Nothing's mentioned him since
Okay.
the transition between the two comics.
Okay.
Yeah, so we don't know where he is. He'll probably appear in issue 2, I'm guessing. But
And he'll team up with his brother to take himself down.
right, and
Right.
it's some convoluted plot there. But another
Hey, look, I'm beating myself.
so another cool thing is that Jocasta goes to Arno Stark with the intention of getting a human body. Jocasta's upgrading herself into flesh
Sure, okay.
She's gonna come a meat bag.
because and of course Machine Man and her break up because of this, because he's totally a racist. But there's that.
How dare you want to be a meat bag?
Yeah, so there's that too. That's what's happening with Jocasta as well. So that's everybody basically. Everything else is just slice of life, just stuff happening that takes up too much of the comic that I'm paying for. That has nothing to do with Tony
And
Stark.
Pepper's still not involved anymore.
No. And MJ's doing her own thing. Mary Jane was Tony Stark's assistant for a while. She took Pepper
Because they were trying to make her relevant, essentially, without
okay.
being involved with Peter.
Okay.
and she gets hired by Stark Industries because
Yeah.
he literally goes and he tries to hire several different characters. One of which is like Kitty Pryde. But the problem with Kitty is that anytime she phases through technology, she fries it.
Of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah, so he's just like, no, you can't have a job here.
Yeah,
And he-
because like his whole building's technology.
yeah, so he hires
Mary Jane.
he hires Mary Jane.
Here, you with no superpowers. You're cool, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. So
She
while
lasts for a short amount of time.
yeah, while it's basically while he's in the coma. While he's in the coma, his mom and Mary Jane are running the business.
Oh, nice.
That's just how it goes. Yeah, they tried to give Mary Jane her own comic here recently.
It's actually doing very well, actually.
The sales aren't though.
Yeah, but it itself is actually
Yeah, this
a relatively good comic.
Yeah, it might be a good comic, but no one's reading it.
Oh.
'Cause, I mean, no offense to Mary Jane.
That just means they'll read it later and it'll be remembered well.
yeah. It's one of
Unfortunately,
those.
that doesn't make it go longer though.
No, it just makes it a cult classic kind of thing.
Yes.
Yeah,
There's
it's
a lot
tragic.
of well, comic books in general are starting to die off.
Well, that's
Welcome
what
to the world of rejection of physical media.
yeah,
Yeah.
right.